Hi, I'm Janet Raptis. I'm an energy healer and intuitive development coach. And every Tuesday at 5:15 here on my business page, I share tips for empaths and sensitive people and people who are looking to expand their intuition. Whatever just seems to be coming up, I take a few minutes to share. So what has been really showing up for me and a lot of my clients is in addition to empathy, this idea of high sensitivity. So you may have heard an HSP, highly sensitive person, and you may not have. And for a lot of sensitive people, part of what is so confusing is that we don't often understand all of our sensitivities. We don't know what they, I'm just looking, I'm like, something is making me look like I have a black eye. I don't have a black eye. But what can be coming up is we don't always understand our sensitivities. And so not understanding our sensitivities can really contribute to increased sense of overwhelm or anxiety, exhaustion. And so I wanted to share, especially as we're coming into the holiday season, some other forms of sensitivity that you might be experiencing and some tools for dealing with them. So something that a lot of highly sensitive people don't understand is that their nervous system is more sensitive than that of others. So this can show up in a lot of different ways. So for example, lighting might be really more sensitive to you. You might notice that you're really sensitive to fluorescent lighting or different types of lighting. You might notice that clutter or crowdedness really tends to be overwhelming for you. Textures, we might be super sensitive to textures and have issues. A lot of highly sensitive people have issues eating because of the textures of food. Also textures of clothing, the way that the clothes touch you, how tight the clothing is can cause a sensory overload or overwhelm for a sensitive person. All types of sensations, really. So anything connected to any of your senses. And this really includes even touching things, the way things feel. And what this means then for some of us is that going to like a crowded store can be a really, really difficult experience. I'm thinking of an instance like 20 years ago, probably before in that period, I had really shut down my intuitive senses. In fact, I was very, very actively numbing out during that period. And I was working in a restaurant at the time, and after work on Christmas Eve, one of my coworkers and I went to a mall here in Atlanta, Lenox Mall. It's a really crowded mall. We needed to get some last minute gifts. And I remember even now, like, I almost feel like that sense of, oh my God, I can't be here. And we knew exactly where we needed to go, but my friend was laughing at me because I just like started plowing ahead. And I've kind of like almost knocked over these two older women. And my friend was like, dang girl, you almost took out those old women. And, he was laughing at me, but, the feeling that was happening for me was like, I can't be here. This is just too much. And like, get me out. And there's a tendency when we go into that overwhelm to shut out sort of the rational thought. Like, of course, I didn't want to knock over two older women, that was not what I wanted to do. But it was like I became sort of like singularly focused on getting the hell out, right? And taking care of myself. Only I didn't understand that that's what I was at the time. And so when you're dealing with these sensitivities, when you're dealing with having to go to a store where not only as an empath, because really empathy and highly sensitive tend to go hand in hand. I have read that all empaths are highly sensitive, not necessarily all highly sensitive people are empaths. But if you're an empath, you most likely have the characteristics of a highly sensitive person, and they are different. So as the empath, you're picking up on all the emotions of the people around you. And if it's crowded, this can be really challenging. And you're also picking up on all of the other stuff in the environment. So this is one of the reasons why going to a grocery store can be really challenging as well, because of the lighting and the smells. Like for me, one of the ways my highly sensitive nature is affected is through the smell of chemicals. It's something, and the more sensitive I get, the more I open up, the stronger that sensitivity gets. Because I used to be able use toxic chemicals in my household, and I didn't know that I shouldn't. And I used to be able to purchase them, and now I can't use them. I can't be in places where they are using them, and I cannot walk down that aisle at the grocery store. Now, my partner is super highly sensitive, but that's not one of his, and even though, surprisingly, he has a much stronger nose than me in general, that's not one area of his strong sensitivities, right? But he has other things that he's super sensitive to. And so for us, a lot of this as we're together is like going back and forth and understanding, like if we do need to get something from that aisle in the grocery store, which is super rare because I also don't like to have it on my skin or to even have it in the house. But if we do need something from that aisle, he'll go get it, right? And if it's something that he's really sensitive to and I'm not, or not as sensitive, I'll take care of it, right? This also means that I have a higher sensitivity to caffeine than a lot of people. And this is something that I've personally gone back and forth with a lot in my life because I love coffee, but too much coffee is hard for my sensitive nature. And so I have to be really sparing with it. So my suggestion is to, as you're kind of going through your day, or even take some time to sit down and think about like what are the areas of my life, or where do I notice that my sensitivities are showing up, and think about when you go to the grocery store, or when you go to the grocery store and when you're there, think about it, like what is really affecting me right now? Is it the lighting? Is it the way that this aisle is set up? Is this grocery store too crowded for me? Like one of the things I like about Trader Joe's is that the aisles are really wide. They're way wider than like at Kroger. And one of the things that I really, and also they have art everywhere, right? So it's visually more appealing to me. One of the things I love about Whole Foods is that the vibration of Whole Foods is higher because the vibration of the vegetables and the meats are all higher. And it also has a more, like the way that it's set up is more energetically appealing to me. I feel better when I'm in the store. It still has some harsh lighting, and they still use chemicals sometimes. Like sometimes I can't go near the fish area because probably for obvious reasons, they have to use chemicals to clean that area. But I just can't. Like, I feel like, well, we're not having fish this week. So, and then even with food, like some highly sensitive people can't eat certain foods, can't eat certain meats. It's something that I have had to really tune into and be very attentive to because my body really needs meat, and yet I can often feel the energy of the meat. And so as you go through some of your activities, some of the places that you go, some of the things you do, try to become more aware of when you're feeling sensitive. What's going on with me right now? What is affecting me? Why is my mood shifting? Is it because I'm picking up an emotion of someone, or is it because there's an intensity around me? Because a lot of the time, like we can't stop going grocery shopping, right? But we can adjust what store we go to, what time of day we go. We can adjust our self-care routine around our shopping, right? So if we know that we have to go to the grocery store, we know that we might, be feeling a little tired afterwards, we can actually do something before we go. Hey, Melissa, we can do something before we go to strengthen our energy field, right? And then also even just the awareness. I've found holding the awareness within myself that I am sensitive to certain things and that this is what's happening helps me to get through it. And I have a very kind of streamlined process. Like Scott and I make lists, which not only helps organize our shopping and our meals for the week, but it makes it faster, right? We know what we're getting. We're not standing in the middle of the store anymore going, oh my God, what are we doing here in the midst of all this sensory overload? So there are things that you can do to take care of yourself. Also, you can, make sure that afterwards you have time to rest, relax. Some people after going out, like doing holiday shopping, might need to go into the bath straight away, or go into kind of a dark room and just chill out, or I have a friend who loves to go to the flotation tanks, and that's something that I really want to try. Let's see what Tina just wrote, that she goes to Whole Foods sometimes in cities that she's unfamiliar with to help for grounding. She feels safe and happy there. So this is something you can think about, like, where do you feel better? Where do you feel safer? And you can start to incorporate that into your day. One of the things when I was talking to Scott earlier today about this topic is, and one of the things that he brought up was that really for him, acceptance of his sensitivities was a huge part of his process. And I think it was for me too, only I didn't really connect it in that way. And I think especially for men, that this may be harder because it's a little more acceptable for women to be sensitive. I mean, it's still hard, and we've still all gotten a lot of like, you're too sensitive, don't be so sensitive, back up, right? But it's especially hard for men. And so for him, coming to this place of acceptance was really important. And I think that can benefit all of us, is really in this process of thinking about, well, what is it about this experience? What is it that I'm sensitive to? Once you can define it and tune into it, and really embrace your sensitivity, you can have a turnaround with it, because then you're not at the mercy of it anymore. It's not like, oh my God, every time I go to the store, I feel horrible afterwards, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I'm going to go to the store and I know that I'm sensitive to the different things in the store. And so I know what to expect. I've got my, essential oils. I mean, that's one thing that I do. I carry essential oils with me all the time. And I might, I've been known to whip out a bottle of grounding oil in the middle of the store and either just smell it or put it on my thymus or put it on my wrist. So it's like being able to, once you have that acceptance of it, you can move into that space of, well, what do I do to support myself in it? And really with our sensitivities, with our gifts, it's about supporting ourselves. It's about doing the things that we need to do so that we feel better and can take care of ourselves. Scott says pushy people with carts are a problem for me. Pushy people with carts are a problem for Scott. I can second that. So it's funny because sometimes he'll kind of hang back in the aisle and I'll just kind of go ahead and grab the things. Like I go to the same stores all the time too, so I know exactly where everything is and I can just grab what we need, and then he can kind of move on from there. And plus I'm small, so I can dodge in and out really easily. But mostly it's just been that process of identifying, accepting, and then coming up with and utilizing the tools that I have to help my experience be as good as it can be. So with that, I would love to answer any questions that you all have, or also even if you have any comments just about, what the holiday season is like for you. I really like to, I like to support independent stores, and that is something that I do try to do during the holiday season. And also, I will say that I do some of my shopping online. I think that online shopping, it has its own set of issues, right? But when it comes down to my sensitivities, it's something that that is supportive of me. And so even in the way, again, that I'm shopping, I'm very particular, like, okay, I'm going to go to this store, this store, this store, or I'm going to get this, this, and this. What can you do if you start getting anxious but still have to check out? So that's a really great question. If you use essential oils, you could use essential oils. You could breathe in some lavender or stress away or a grounding oil like I mentioned before. You can tap your thymus and breathe from your belly. Both of those things bring you back into your body. So when you start to get anxious, your energy goes up, and you start to breathe shallowly. And so the first thing to do is to kind of bring yourself back into your body. When you come back into your body and you breathe from your belly, the anxiousness will start to dissipate. That's one thing you can do. You can also find a part of the store that feels more comfortable for you. So like Tina said, in Whole Foods, she's got places that feel comfortable for her in there. This might sound weird, but the produce department, if it's not too crowded, might be a really grounding place because there are plants all around you, even though they're not still in the earth. They are all around you. Or going to the juice bar and grabbing a juice, or if there's like a coffee shop in the grocery store, you could go sit down and just put your feet on the ground and breathe for a few minutes. You can also, if you need to, go to the restroom and just go into a stall, breathe some essential oil. You could just sit for a few minutes, breathe. You could splash some water on your face. So something that will bring you back into your body, bring you back into the breath, and then continue checking out, if that makes sense. Is there a telltale way to decipher between when you're sensitive towards something, someone versus triggered? Thank you, Monique. That's a great question. There's not, unfortunately. What I have found is that as I've done more emotional healing, as I've paid more attention to my sensitivities, as I have tuned in and done, some of the tools that I've shared with you guys in these Facebook Lives are the tools that I use in my life. So tuning in to what's going on with me, when I notice either if it's a trigger or if it's a sensitivity, and I might not know what it is at first. Now I'm good at deciphering. Like now I almost always know immediately, but it's taken me a while. And I have to actually ask myself, okay, what is going on? Is this mine? Is it somebody else's? If it's somebody else's, I return to sender. I've shared that tool with you guys before. And if it's mine, what is triggering me? What happened here? And I'll actually take a few moments to reflect on it. So this could be, let's say in the grocery store, you're with your cart and you're moving towards the checkout aisle. And you're like, oh, thank God, I'm almost out. And then somebody kind of jets over and like scoots right in front of you, right? And all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, right? Now you would just have to ask yourself, okay, am I upset because this person is upset? Am I picking up something in this person's rushed, this person's hurried, this person doesn't want to be here and they just cut in front of me? Or am I triggered because I feel disrespected, right? So it's going within and asking yourself and being really honest with that. And it might require going home and journaling or talking it out with someone or doing some anger release work, but paying attention to it, even giving it your attention and your love, it will do a lot to help you in this process of moving along with it. And each time that you do it, each time you ask yourself, is this a sensitivity? Is it that I'm picking up something from someone, or is it a trigger? Every time you ask yourself, it will make it easier for the next time. And you will just become more aware of what your triggers are. I mean, that used to be a big trigger for me, getting cut off, whether it was in line or traffic. What I realized, over time working with this was that I felt disrespected. I felt dishonored. And even though that can still trigger me every once in a while, for the most part now, it's not like it used to be, right? And so I can be more resilient around it now that I've worked with it more. And that's how it would work for any of us. That's a great, great question. Thank you so much. Does anybody else have any questions? This has been a really great topic, and I'm really appreciative of all of you who've joined and listened and contributed. Thank you so much. I'll give just another minute while I share with you that I'm doing something super, super fun this Sunday, and I'm going to formally announce it tomorrow, but I want to let you know that I'm going to do an online circle on Sunday, and it's going to be through Zoom, so we'll all be able to see each other, and it's going to be like a sacred circle, and it's going to be on the topic of Mercury retrograde and how we can make Mercury retrograde work for us instead of against us. And we're going to come together. I'm going to create an altar and a sacred space. I'm going to lead a guided meditation, and we're going to share. And I'm really excited. I've been wanting to do an online circle for a long time, and I'm finally doing it together, and I've got some great stuff planned for this and moving forward. So if you all are interested in that, I'll put a link to the sign up page in the comments. And I see that Lisa has a question: how to handle toxic family that tries to manipulate you. That is a really, really, really big topic, Lisa. I would say that Alicia second set. Yeah, it's something that we all want to know, right? So I'm going to give you a short answer, and in that short answer, I want to make it clear that it will not be complete, because dealing with toxic family requires healing, emotional healing, inner child healing a lot of the time. It involves boundary settings. It involves being able to take care of yourself. So there are many, many, many layers for it. The short answer is that you have to get together with your family over this holiday. Do it in the way that feels best for you. So if your family normally gets together for 4 hours and you know that 2 hours, 2.5 hours is your limit, if you have to go, okay, if it's really, really toxic, you can say no. And even just knowing that you have that possible response, like you can say no, even if you know that you can say no and you still say yes, just knowing you can say no can be helpful. But know that you can say no. Know that you can dictate how the experience goes for you to a certain extent. So if you know that 2 hours, 2.5 hours is the outer limits of what you can handle, let your family know that you're leaving at 5, and you don't even really need to offer an explanation for it. And also do some strengthening work for yourself prior to going. So one thing that I would recommend would be an energy healing, energy clearing meditation. I have one on my website. If you opt into my list, you can get that as a free gift. And I think that doing that, or if you have another meditation that you love that helps to build up your energy field, that would work too. So building up your energy field and getting it as strong as possible beforehand would be good. Making sure that you set the time limit that feels best for you. Take your own car if that's something that you need to do. Make sure that after you leave your family, that you have something planned that is just for you, like where you're really nourishing yourself. So if that means going and taking a walk on the beach, if you live by the ocean, taking a salt bath afterwards and lighting a bunch of candles, having like some sacred time with your partner or with a girlfriend, like whatever it is that really feels great for you, have that lined up for you afterwards so that you know, okay, I'm going to do this family thing for 2 hours, and then afterwards I am going to have like a killer bath where I put on awesome music and light candles and have essential oils, and it's going to be this super essential and amazing experience, and you know that you're going to do that for yourself. So good for you, Melissa. That's awesome. It can be really, really hard to say no to our family and to set boundaries to with our families. Just know that you get to do whatever feels right for you. And thank you, Lisa. I'm so glad you asked this question, and that you take care of yourself in the process. All right. And yes, Alicia, learning to say no is the best thing at Isolaware. Learning to say no when no is the best answer, and learning to say yes when yes is the best answer, right? Those are the best things that we can do for ourselves. All right, y'all. Thank you so, so much. And I hope that you all have a beautiful week, and I appreciate you. And I will see you soon. Bye.